Coffee. Hello, friends. Welcome to day 49 of my fantastic journey. Today we're going to take a look back on week number 7 of this fantastic, I just already said that, fantastic journey. Starting with Monday, as usual, my fusing class. Got a lot accomplished this week. I got back 2 pieces from the kiln, the finished and slumped orange and turquoise piece, which I love, and the mosaic style Sacred Heart for Penny, which I then put on a light box like I did my first piece, but this time I used some fantastic remote control flashing and strobing lights. So it is extremely cheesy and awesome, and I think Penny will love it. It was the second to last class, so I took some time to finish up the peacock piece, which I didn't take a picture of, unfortunately. I was able to put together a piece that I'd been thinking about for a long time for my wonderful GBFF Jonathan in New York City. He will get a black and red platter, so we'll see how that fuses together for next time. And then I bought a few pieces of glass from the instructor because I didn't bring enough of what I bought to fill the time. Just put together a couple of green and blue pieces, which I think are pretty cool. And so they will be fused next time. And being the last class, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it. Maybe she'll let me do one more piece and get it both full fused and slump fused. And then I'll have something extra. But speaking of glass, when I first started this whole thing, I had the intention that the first part of my leaf would be covering a breadth of media, and then in the second part of it, really focusing in and choosing something that I really wanted to pursue further. While my basic art classes, if you want to call them that, my watercolor, my oils, and my colored pencil class extend beyond the first half, I've decided the rest of the time I'm going to pursue glass. As I mentioned before, I think I'm taking the intermediate version of the class I'm in now, so it's just continuing with the same instructor. And then I signed up for a stained glass class, which is mixed level, so it's beginner through advanced. I don't need the absolute basics for stained glass, so I'm glad it's a mixed class. I can sort of learn what I need to learn or review and continue on beyond that. And I also signed up for a flame working class to use, I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce it, but borosilicate, which if you have seen, I'm sure you've seen marbles before, that sort of inside design within glass. So I'll be working with hot glass. I'm not sure if that's such a great idea going into the summer months here in Arizona. I just love the glass so much, and I really want to expand my skills and my capabilities there. So that's what I'll be doing, as well as those fundamental classes, just to continue my growth as an artist, I guess. But the point is, I will have a good mix of skills in my pocket for the occasions that I want to do mixed media pieces. It can incorporate some of that other artistry into enamel painting or silk screening with the glass. And I can also incorporate that into floral pieces, which I also intend to keep doing. So that is the plan. Tuesday was oils class and colored pencil class, and in oils just added peppers to the vegetable still life, and it took 3 hours to make 3 peppers. Colored pencil, we did a complementary color underdrawing. We had done the underdrawing before with the gray tones, and this one was basically you take the opposite color of the dominant color in your picture and you do your underdrawing with that, which creates a natural shadow. I didn't get finished that in class, and I still haven't finished it, and I might continue it. I don't know, maybe. And then, of course, Wednesday was clay class. We got into the glazing. I was a little more hopeful for the glazing. The instructor sort of gave strange advice and sort of took over and did things himself and didn't explain a lot. I don't know what I ended up with. I think I will have some very strange looking things. I don't know how to get the effects. And to me, that's just another con in the list for pottery. I get that the unpredictability is cool and that you get results you maybe didn't expect and are beautiful, but I don't know, I guess I'm just the kind of person that I have a vision in my head and I want to execute that vision, and I just can't be sure with pottery and the way that glazing works. So as I'm messing around with the glazes and I admittedly have no idea what I'm doing, this guy comes over and we'd had an encounter before. He's, I guess, what you'd call a little gruff. I honestly think he's one of those people that is an asshole, knows he's an asshole, kind of owns being an asshole, and just says, if you don't like it, that's just me. Too bad. I'm not usually a fan of those people. So he looks at me trying to dip my little guy the way my instructor just taught me to, which is holding on to it and putting it in. And he says, are you going to dip that whole thing? Hang on a second. And I say, yes. So then he abruptly turns and walks away. I assume he's going to tell me something, and he comes back with some forceps. He takes the piece from me and puts the forceps on, and he says, this is how you do it. And he dips it in 1, 2, 3, and he pulls it out, and he hands it to me. And I said, okay. And so if I want to dip the ears again, and he said, what? Why do you want to dip the ears again? That's called double dipping, and double dipping is not acceptable at a party, and it's not acceptable here. And I said, well, what if I want to get that slightly different color? And he said, different color? This is the same color. And I said, well, I know, but Julius, my instructor, told me that if you get it thicker, it goes to this different color. In fact, the one I was using would go to a white if it was thicker, and more of a brown, burnt umber, orangey color if it was thinner. And he looked at me and he said, well, that's true. Dude, just honestly, go away. If you're going to be a dick, go be a dick to someone else. But by that point, I realized that I had another piece that I dipped like 6 or 7 times. Like it was super thick with the glaze. And according to what he said, that's probably going to drip all over the kiln, and I hope it pisses him off when he has to fire it. Anyway, besides all that, I got all my pieces glazed, again, in a way that I have no idea how they're going to turn out. I'm assuming it's all going to be hideously, horribly ugly, and I will never have to deal with clay again. Later on, I wanted to do something I was a little more comfortable with, so I decided to continue on with the sort of black paper and black plaque idea I'd had for the colored pencils. So I drew this little Dick, which is the world's smallest antelope, if you didn't know. It was just wrong. It was all out of proportion. His nose was just kind of looked like an anteater. So I redrew it on a plaque, and I think it turned out pretty good. And I'll be honest, I used transfer paper. I traced it and used transfer paper to get the proportions right, at least for the outline of it. I think people consider that cheating or not being a real artist. To me, I feel like it's just a tool that I have that I can use if I have an iPad and I have some tracing paper and I have some transfer paper, then I can use that to get the effect that I want. It's very similar to the grid style of drawing. Again, maybe some people consider that cheating. I don't know. Some things I've done freehand. The skull and flowers I've been showing you, I drew that freehand. I think it just depends on how accurate I feel I need to be. With flowers and the skull, I can be a little bit more inaccurate because the flowers, being organic, don't always have the same shape. It doesn't necessarily have to be completely the same as what the mind would expect. And same with a skull. We're not used to seeing skulls necessarily, and they may be different than what a cow's face looks like. But if I'm drawing a cow's face, it needs to look like a cow's face, I think. And if I'm drawing a dick, it needs to look like a dick. If I'm drawing a person, it definitely needs to look like that person. So it's really important to get the proportions right. I'm not always great at that, and I know that, so I'm going to use these tools. There's a fantastic movie for anyone interested called Tim's Vermeer, which is about a guy wanting to understand how the artist Vermeer got his colors so accurate and bright before there was any kind of technology that would help. His paintings looked very photographic in nature, and so there was a little bit of a mystery about how that was done. The film sort of explores how an old master would have achieved certain effects without the technology that we have today, and it's amazing. And it's wonderful to know that even these revered masters used the tools at hand to get realistic results that they wanted. And that, I feel, justifies me using a grid or transfer paper or whatever. On Thursday, had watercolor class. We started with a cloud-ish landscape, which I still need to add some foreground to, some trees or something, but I really like it. It looks like an Arizona sunset. And then we continued on the composite landscapes that we'd done, so I got some detail in there. I still have some work to do on it. I don't know. I find with watercolors, I'd rather probably stick to the illustration style that I've done before, because trying to get any kind of realism is difficult for me, but I'll continue to work on that and see what happens. Friday, which is usually my day off from classes, we had a makeup class for colored pencil class that was canceled a few weeks ago, and we worked on tea-stained watercolor paper with ink. We drew out images in ink first and then filled them in with watercolor pencil. It's like worlds colliding. I happen to have a set of watercolor pencils that I got when I was a teenager that I didn't really know how to use, and now I can pull them out 30 years later and put them to use. Saturday was mosaic class, and finally added grout to my finished mosaic. And we picked a lovely blue color, which I think will dry a periwinkle-ish. We'll see how that dries. And next week is really sealing it. And then there's one more class after that. The instructor said I could bring in a little planter or something that I can start a new one on. I won't be able to finish it in class, but I don't know if I'll keep doing it after that, but might as well start something. I think that's it for this week. I wanted to let you know that next week we're coming up on a date that is very significant to me and this whole adventure that I'm on. So next week's video, I will talk about that, maybe a little more serious in nature, just talking about one of the main inspirations for what I'm doing, and just to let you know. But thank you for watching and subscribing and commenting and liking. I would like for you to do all of those things, and I'll see you next week.